Good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful to be here again, and thank you so much to WCN because I really value these conversations and this opportunity to speak to you about lions, and it's going to be wonderful to speak with Pete, who I've known for a long time, and to be able to together try and with you, to be able to protect the lions of Africa. So I hope this is not how you're feeling at the moment in this sort of post-lunch slump. But this was really also to talk about being overwhelmed. I've had many conversations over the last few days, and I think many of you and myself as well are feeling a little overwhelmed with what is happening all over the world at the moment. And that certainly doesn't, it is for us as well when we're in the bush in Niassa. And I'm not overwhelmed by the work. I'm overwhelmed by how I make enough of a difference in my lifetime. Because for me, that is the meaning of life, is to make a contribution and to leave the world a better place than I found it for everybody. And so I've been grappling with ways to be able to find my way and make a difference. And in the last 2 years, I know many of you have been to these talks before, it has been a very difficult time for us, and I was very fortunate to be able to go on a year-long transformational leadership course last year, which ended with 3 weeks in Antarctica with 80 women scientists from around the world. And this was one of the largest expeditions to Antarctica, and that's why you're getting this picture today. And there I was able to find some perspective and also found joy, because I realized that it's moments of joy that I was losing in my life. And Antarctica is such a wonderful place to be able to find that, because it doesn't have any indigenous people, but it requires all of us to be able to save it. And it has the Antarctic Treaty, which is a wonderful example of collaboration. And this Homeward Bound program serves to take 1,000 women through this leadership program, and we all collaborate. And that's really what it is all about, is finding joy, finding collaboration, and finding ways to work together in wildernesses across the world. So for me, to be is to do. And you think that Socrates said that so long ago, and that actually is, you have to get up and you have to do something. So many people say to me, I need to give you hope, but that's not my responsibility. I'm not here to give you hope. I'm here to tell you what you do and hopefully inspire you to action, because through action, you find hope. And so, and I find hope through our team. We started with a team of 2 and a man called Oscar, who is still with us today, and now have a team of 100 Mozambicans. 75% of them come from the local villages with whom we work, and all of them give me hope. Because conservation is not an individual endeavor. It doesn't have a principal investigator like research does. The mechanic is as important as the director, and the cook is as important to the lion tracker, because it needs everybody to get this done. And so I am here today really just as the spokesperson for our team. And I just want to make that very clear, that I am not the Niassa Lion Project. They are the Niassa Lion Project. And there are many of them, and all of them are so important. So our vision is a wilderness where lions and other wildlife thrive with the full support and participation of Niassa's local people. Niassa National Reserve in northern Mozambique celebrated its 65th anniversary last week. For much of that time, it was a paper park. It was at one stage twice the size that it is today. It then became very small, and at the moment is at 42,000 square kilometers, 16,000 square miles. It's one of the mega parks in Africa. It lies in northern Mozambique, right on the border with Tanzania, midway between the coast and Lake Malawi. I show this picture almost every year. For me, it is the picture that shows what Niassa is. It is the picture of why I am there and why I believe this place is so important. When I was in Antarctica, it reminded me of Niassa, because this is wilderness. This is a beautiful wilderness. Whoops. where elephants are dwarfed by the granite Inselbergs, which rise up above the Lugenda River and the Miamba woodlands, where people have always been there. These are not people who have encroached on the protected area. These are Niassa's people. They have never left the area. This is their home. It's where their ancestors are buried, where their stories are told, and they are so important to the future of the place. They have sacred sites spread across the reserve, to which they travel every year and have an amazing spiritual relationship with many of the animals there. It is a place that makes you breathless. These moments of pure beauty that you cannot believe after the horror that we've seen over the last few years still exist. And of course, it's a place so important for conservation. There are more than 350 African wild dogs there, and for this year, for the first time, I was able to see a pack of 30 wild dogs with all their puppies just behind our environmental center as the prey has recovered. And of course, there are lions there. There are 800 to 1,000 lions there. And Pete will talk more about the threats of lions, but I just wanted to illustrate there are only 6 wild populations left that have 1,000 lions, and Niassa is one of them. And this map, I know it's not a very complicated map, but shows to me how fragile these 20 to 24,000 lions are that are left in the world today. People keep telling me that they didn't know that lions were so endangered. And I wanted to ask you, have you not been listening? Because I have been up here for 12 years talking about lions, and I really need everybody to go out there and tell the story of how precarious the situation is. 20 to 24,000 lions left in the world today. And the lions in Niassa are not immune to this. We had an increasing population, and now the population is starting to decline. It brings into question, what is success? What does success look like for you? Do I keep coming up here as the lion population declines? Do we keep fighting? We're just trying to slow it down until we can find a way, and we have some solutions to make this right. I've lived in the same camp for 18 years. I still sleep on a bamboo deck in a mozzie dome tent under a sausage tree. The sign that things that have been there a long time is really the children. They have grown over the time that they're now 12 and 10. And I'm showing these pictures because people always complain that I don't show the children. So I'm now off the hook. But during the time that Finn has been alive, he's just turned 10 and was born in 2009, 10,000 elephants died in Niassa. In his first 10 years of his life, 10,000 elephants. We also have increasing numbers of lions being killed for the lion trinket and bone trade. There are lots of threats in Niassa. It's not like we just focus on one and solve it. We have to try and solve them all at the same time. And just as we get one under control, then gold mining starts, or this trade in the Asian trinket trade. This is not going to go away. And we need to make sure that we are very, very adaptive and have adaptive governance and very short work plans, not long strategies, so that we can take advantage and respond to all these threats. So when I was in Antarctica, someone introduced me to this poem by David White, which says, start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first. Sorry, I need to go back. Close in, the step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way of starting the conversation. And our way of starting the conversation is to listen. We need to listen to the people who live there and find out how to get this right. And so for 18 years, we've been listening and then trying to put into place solutions that will solve these issues. Because the poorest people in Africa are living with lions today. And they are the ones that are the custodians of the last remaining lion populations. And if we don't listen, then we are going to lose not only lions, but lion landscapes. Madiba said, "I see no future in parks unless they address the needs of communities as equal partners." This is not social responsibility that he's talking about. Madiba talked about them being equal partners with decision-making powers, and that is very important, and it's not the same as social responsibility and handouts. First of all, we need to stop the loss. We need to change that trend line so that lions do not continue to decline. We need to find ways to reduce the snaring, where lions are caught inadvertently in snares set for bushmeat, for food, and for commercial trade. This is both a livelihoods issue and an economic issue. Of course, the first response, and who thought that I would be basically fighting a war, is to employ anti-poaching scouts. We have 38 anti-poaching scouts that are part of the reserve anti-poaching team that are out there every day, protecting elephants, lions, and everything else in between. They remove snares, and they tell us where the lions are. Whoops. The other threat is retaliation. We need to be able to protect people who are facing losses of their livestock and losses to their lives from lions, and then retaliate. We do that by protecting their goat corrals and teaching them about safe shelters. We need to reduce the cost to people who are living with the lions on the ground. We cannot talk about conservation to people who don't have food and are losing their livestock and are living with very dangerous animals throughout Africa. We do this by having our 44 wildlife guardians across all the villages in the reserve talking to people about how to live safely with these animals, talking to them about ways that they can protect themselves. These are safe shelters. These are traditional shelters that the elders have known about forever. We just include this indigenous knowledge, just like Jim was saying, to be able to remind people that there are ways to coexist with lions and wildlife. Oops. And then, of course, the Environmental Center, which was built with so much support from the Houston Zoo, as well as from WCN, and has become the hub of our conservation activities, where we can bring Niassa's people, both adults and children, to have those conversations right in a beautiful area, and to be able to take them out to see wildlife so that they understand what we are trying to do. This is the place that often children see elephants for the first time in a safe environment. It is a place where people, for the first time in their lives, get to go on a game drive, and so that they can understand what ecotourism is. Because how can you understand it if you've never done it? If you are the ones that live in a place but are never able to go on a game drive and see animals in a safe way, and to transform your relationship from one of food or terror to one of appreciation and protection. We need to unlock the value. And this isn't only an economic argument. This is the cultural, economic, and ecological value of having large carnivores in these landscapes. We are now seeing people making lion masks, going back to traditions that they've known for years, dances about lions, stories about lions, and about conservation. Elephants become part of our Lion Fun Days, where people start to celebrate them instead of hate them. And I'd like to talk to you about grass. It's a very simple story, but there's an amazing opportunity with thatching grass, because women collect it, and all of our buildings have thatched roofs. Our new ecotourism lodge is built entirely from grass and bamboo. These women, more than 40 women in villages right next to where we live, raise more than $15,000 a year from collecting grass. It's a renewable resource. And they've been doing it for thousands of years. And then the elderly men clean the grass, stack it for us, so that we can use it in our roofs and in our ecotourism camp. And then it's woven to make beautiful walls, beautiful beds, all sorts of things in the ecotourism camp, and we're generating a local economy at every single moment with this group of people to build their camp so that they can get a sustainable future from lions and from the wilderness that they protect. The structures are very simple. They're all just built in the style of that safe shelter that I showed you before, with a beautiful view of the Lipambulu Mountain over the Lugenda River. You can even sleep on the sandbars if you don't want to sleep in a camp, and really get the feeling of beautiful Niassa in a very simple way. All the staff come from the local communities. They learn to cook. They've learned to make a bed. They've learned to cook their normal food for everybody who comes to the ecotourism camp with local ingredients in a local way. Even the soft furnishings are made by our craft and design group, with the women, and I've got some of the quilts here that you can see earlier, making these beautiful quilts that are sewn together by Mzee Katambusi on an old treadle sewing machine in the village right next to the camp. We put them on the beds, and when people come, they buy them straight off the beds, and the money goes back into the community. The point I'm trying to make is that you need to look at every point of your camp, every point of your conservation story, and make sure as much money is going into the local community that is 10 kilometers away from where this lodge is. And that requires a focused attention to detail, what kind of food you eat, what the camp looks like. And it can still be beautiful, and it can still be a beautiful place that people want to come and visit. Even the honey you have with your breakfast is from our elephant beehive fences and our honey program. The women are making money from selling rabbits, and the people go out on the game drives. This is doing its own thing, that's why I'm talking quite fast. The people go out on the game drives and can see animals like you would in a normal ecotourism camp, and every time they see key animals, performance payments go back into the village, and the village gets the recognition and the money into their fund so that they can decide how they would like to spend it. I don't expect you to look at this graph for very long, other than to say that you have as many programs as possible with as many households as possible involved in conservation. Conservation is not just about anti-poaching. It's finding livelihoods in every possible way for a community to be able to have a future in a place with wildlife. And then you have public meetings where this is all reported. So we have an AGM in June every year with our villages that we partner with, where we report on our activities and our successes and failures, as do the community themselves. All the money is transparent, and they can then make the decisions themselves of how they want to spend that money. And I'd just like to reiterate again that this is not social responsibility. It's their fund. We passed over $14,000 a few weeks ago, and they will decide exactly how they wish to spend it for their community and for their future. They present a financial report that we provide some technical assistance with. And they decide to spend their money on a school lunch program for 300 children to get the parents to send them to school, and our 44 scholars on secondary school scholarships from 11 villages across the reserve to give their children an education. For the 80 seasonal jobs for people in conservation services to build roads and in construction, and even decided that this year they didn't want the jobs for 80 people for 6 months, but for 240 people for 2 months each. Just don't look at the graph other than to see that all the green is the money when you come and stay that goes to the village. All the money in the blue is the money that stays nationally in Mozambique. And only the 2 orange blocks, which are the agent fees and the professional guide at the moment, are going out the country. I believe that all ecotourism needs to be a lot more transparent about where the money is going. We always tell you to come and visit places, but you need to ask questions. My bed night fee that I'm paying, where is the money going? How much of it is staying local? How much of it is going to international investors? How much of it is going to agent fees? We have to keep the money in the countries in which we are doing conservation if we are going to be successful in changing the conservation conversation. And then you have to look at your outcomes. And yesterday I was talking a little bit at another event about impact. Our hippo population in this area where this lodge is has increased. All the ungulate populations have increased. Oops. As I said, the wild dogs are breeding all their pups. They bred successfully. We had one pup killed by a lion, but all other 12 pups were successfully raised. This is Akamwana. She died this week. Now, Akamwana I've known since 2011, and when I met her, she was a single lioness, and she never was able to raise her cubs. But the good news is that Akamwana is now in a place that is protected by community participation. And Akamwana now is a member of a pride of 8. And so her pride lives on. That is the success of community conservation. That is the success of having communities who love Niassa and will protect it. And now we have elephants who have calves, and that we can see the recovery from 4,000 elephants to start to increase again. But still I'm left with this feeling that this is just one place, and I need to do more. And how can I just work in one place, and how can I have more effort? I need to have more perspective. Whoops, what's going on? You can't be a single tree in a forest. You have to be able to collaborate. A lot of you met Saranga last year, so because of your help, Saranga was able to come in this year and started Basketball for Conservation, Joy of Life, again in 8 different communities with hundreds of children. The chiefs in the village said they learned more from Saranga in a 5-day course than they learned with the teachers in a whole year. Saranga's weeks, we collaborate with Saranga through Joy of Life, and collaboration that creates magic is proper collaboration. It's not just 2 groups working together, it creates something bigger than you would be able to do individually. These children are the future of Niassa, and he teaches them about health and education and citizenship and their home and conservation. Of course, Rebecca mentioned pride. It has been one of the most significant things that's happened in our lives, also supported very strongly by the Houston Zoo, started in 2015 by 6 women conservationists leading lion projects across 4 countries. And we have a very active WhatsApp group, and they are probably why I am still in conservation today. And because Pride has been so successful, we wanted to scale it. And so in 2020, we are starting a year-long leadership program for African women, conservationists in high-level positions. We have a leadership council of 8 African women that are already in leadership positions, and we'll be putting 100 women through the program in 5 years so that we can pay it forward. Because we have to change what's going on in conservation from guns and boots into a more diverse group of conservationists making decisions and bring back courageous, compassionate leadership. And finally, I still was worried about how I could make more of an impact for lions across their landscape. And I didn't know how to do it because I was stuck in one place and was often said that I was a place-based conservationist. So it was an enormous satisfaction to me to be able to collaborate with WCN and Peter on the Lion Recovery Fund, and to be able to use what I'd learned in Niassa to be able to have an influence or just a conversation about lion conservation across the whole landscape of Africa. I believe that these collaborations and getting away from competition in conservation is the way that we're going to do it. And you are part of our team. And so I think what I'd just like to say to you when I hand over to Pete is that please be part of our team, do what you do well, and help us to make a difference in conservation of lions, because I certainly cannot do it by myself. So thank you.